later on the agenda,
Okay.
so you didn't necessarily need to.
Because I was going to maybe move that agenda item up for him,
Okay,
but
all
if
right.
he's not here, we'll.
Well, and that was something.
I move to open public hearing number 1 on ordinance 0-26-04, chapter 170, signs, the amendments. Are there any members of the public that would like to address the council on the ordinance on signs? Okay. No one on Zoom? I'd accept a motion to close
So moved.
the public hearing.
Just on signs?
This is just a public hearing for the signs.
Okay.
Yes, yep. Okay. Do I need a second for that?
Yeah.
Okay, second. Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All right. I move to open public hearing number 2 on ordinance 0-26-5, chapter 180, amendments to the Saldo ordinance. Are there any members of the public that would like to address council on the amendments to the ordinance? None online? Accept a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. The public hearings are closed. All right, with that, I will call to order the regular meeting of the College Township Council for July 16th, 2026. Would all those who are able please rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we start our meeting, I would like to announce that council met in an executive session to discuss a legal matter before the meeting this evening. Our first item up tonight is public open discussion. And at this time, we'd like to invite any members of the public that would like to address council on any items that are not on the agenda. If you wouldn't mind, come to the podium and tell us your name and where you live.
Hi, my name is Miller Salerno, and I live on Florence Way, and I'm a rising 4th grader at Mountain Elementary.
He can move them.
We can move that down so he can.
There you go.
There we go.
And, well, I would like to say something about the lights. That thank you for keeping people safe, and also making people's lives less dangerous, and also saving lives that could have died, actually. And also, thank you for helping people cross roads without getting injured. And that's it.
Miller, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We
Thank you.
appreciate your comments, and it means a lot to us to know that what we did, thanks to your mom, is something that meant something to you. So we hope you'll come back sometime and join us again, okay?
Okay.
You're a great citizen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great little buddy. All right, next item up is new agenda items.
I think
Susan.
Oh, Susan, I'm so sorry.
Yes, please come.
You'll still have to give us your name and where you live, please. Even though we know.
I'll try to remember. That's a hard act to follow. Sue Smith, 121 Dale Street. I'm just here to say thank you again from the Lamont Village Association. We had strange weather for the Strawberry Festival, but it all turned out well. And it's always great to have the help of the township putting out the barricades and getting equipment ready and going through the permits and everything. So we appreciate that help. It's a big deal for us. So. And we're going to be working with Don on the one more project that's coming up. We're going to be getting some plans for a stairway down the side of our building, so it gets people off of the street below the tracks. That's another safety, a real serious safety issue. I wouldn't be here if I had taken one more step when a UPS truck flew over the tracks, and he would never have stopped. Luckily, I didn't have my dog in front of me, so it's a very dangerous place. So we'll be looking for your help again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Well, and
awesome.
thank you for all you do, Sue.
Yes.
All right. Are there any other members of the public that would like to address council? Okay. The next item up are new agenda items. Are there any items that are not currently on the agenda that any members of council would like to add to the agenda this evening? Okay, seeing none. Our next item up is a special presentation. We have the College Township Annual Audit Report. Mr. Fideli?
Thank you and good evening. For the record, my name is Joe Fideli. I'm a CPA and I'm a principal partner with the firm of Fiore, Fideli, Schneider and Carruthers, LLP, and we've been engaged by the council to audit the township's financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2025. I believe everyone has a copy in their agenda packet, and interrupt me anytime you have any questions as we go through this. Shouldn't take more than an hour or so. Perfect. Yes, kid. The first really 3 pages of the document is our responsibility, which is the independent auditor's report. And I can say that it is our opinion that the financial statements of the township are fairly presented in all material respects in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles of the United States of America, I'm obliged to tell you, as applicable to governmental entities. Okay? Our responsibility is the opinion. Management's responsibility is the financial statements. We employ generally accepted auditing standards as they're promulgated by the American Institute of CPAs to conduct our audit. And we also use government auditing standards that are promulgated by the GAO. Government auditing standards is a little bit higher level in that it requires a special report on the township's compliance with laws, regulations, grants, contracts, and agreements, non-compliance with which could have a material effect on the financial statements of the township. And that's included in the back of the document. A few years ago, Bob Long asked us to include that scope of work, which we're happy to do, and it allowed the township to avail higher limits on things like liability insurance and cybersecurity and those types of things for its protection and operations. Part of our report outlines what management's responsibilities are, obviously to maintain a system of internal accounting control that allows you to prepare these types of financial statements. Our responsibility is to conduct our tests based upon our knowledge and experience and again, the system of the township. We don't audit every transaction. We have sampling methods and techniques, so it's not an absolute guarantee of certainty. It's more of an opinion on compliance with accounting principles. In doing so, we have to remain independent. We have to be professionally skeptical. We have certain ethical responsibilities and those type of things which are outlined in the report. And the document also includes required supplementary information, and that's dictated by the Government Accounting Standards Board, which sets standards for the accounting principles and methods by governments, as opposed to the Financial Accounting Standards Board, which sets them for commercial concerns and nonprofit organizations. So you have a couple of things. You have required supplementary information, which includes the management discussion and analysis. We don't audit that. What we do is we read it, and we conduct various comparisons between what the MD&A says, what the financials say, to make sure that they're not inconsistent with one another. And we found no discrepancies in that regard. Okay. The next section is really management's responsibility. Kim prepares this for the township on behalf of management, and it's kind of a super summary to convert the financial statements into layman's terms, outline some of the highlights of borrowings, repayments, revenues, expenses, budgets to actuals, debt, capital outlays, those types of things. A summary of what the taxes have been, what the revenues have been, and those types of things. And again, we read it for consistency with the financial statements overall. When you get to page 13 or so. So if you think of the township's financial statements, they're kind of a pyramid. Where at the top we have government-wide financial statements, and all the way down at the bottom we have fund financial statements. So the fund financial statements would be Parks and Rec Fund, Library Fund, those types of things. And by and large, aside from the State Highway Aid Fund, those are derived from various levies that you make with your real estate taxes that are dedicated or restricted to those particular purposes. And for all practical purposes, those can be seen as separate checkbooks. They're reported on what's called the modified cash basis of accounting. So all year long, we run on cash basis, and at the end of the year, we look at receivables and payables. Receivables that can be collected within the next 30 or 60 days of the subsequent year, and are available to pay any liabilities that would be coming due in that particular time frame. So it's very short, very cash driven, and that's sort of the bottom rung of the ladder, if you will. Next up, we have the major funds. Those are considered other governmental funds. The major funds of the township would be the general fund, capital projects fund, and a debt service fund. And those are the three things that I would suspect you spend most of your time on anyway, especially the general fund. And the general fund is that fund which accounts for everything that's not accounted for someplace else. So it's not only the major budgeted fund of the township, but it's also that bucket, if you will, that everything goes to that can't find another home. Okay, those financial, the fund financial statements are all presented on that same modified cash basis of accounting. Basically cash, some receivables, some payables, and then your net fund balance. The net fund balance can be, as to the general fund, it can be assigned, it can be, there's different levels at which management and or council can earmark the fund balance, if you will, of the general fund for particular purposes. The other funds, the ones for which taxes are specially levied, those would be restricted under state law and could be used only for those purposes. You can supplement them with general revenues, but you can't take Parks and Rec money and use it over for other purposes other than Parks and Rec. So on page 13, statement of net position. And what GASB has tried to do is to have governments prepare financial statements that people who are in business and other walks of life can generally understand. So, if you have a business, you're particularly fond of your P&L, your profit and loss statement, your income statement, if you will, and your balance sheet. So the balance sheet is your assets less your liabilities. and that would give you your equity if you were a business concern, and in this particular case, we term it net position. Okay? The statement of net position and the statement of changes in net position are all on what we call a full accrual basis. So if you owe somebody any money, it's in here. If anybody owes you money, it's in here. And we also bring in capital assets, which are subject to depreciation over their estimated useful lives, and debt. So, you know, it kind of brings in those types of things that aren't on the checkbook type funding, but they're obviously important to the operation of the township. And I notice you have a 121 page or so capital improvement plan to consider later on. So, and some of that's going to be debt. So those are your two of your major funds, capital projects and debt service, in addition to the general fund, and two of your major assets, or two of your major items on the statement of net position that you won't find on the governmental funds. Next page, I'm sorry. The statement of activities. This shows the change in net position, which is first based upon what happens down at the fund level, and then we bring in the other changes that occur based upon debt service, depreciation, and other assets and liabilities that get added in. And you'll see, unlike most of your profits and loss statements that you might see, it doesn't start with revenues. It starts with expenses. And the theory is, with GASB anyway, is that governments aren't in the business, if you will, of raising revenues so it can spend them. The government is in the business of spending money that the taxpayers, or the residents and the taxpayers, elect council to spend money on. Okay? And then you have your expenses that are asked of you or demanded of you, and then you have to find a way to fund them. That can be grants, that can be taxes, that can be borrowing, that can be a lot of different things. But we start with expenses, and then we subtract out what you charge to provide those expenses. And then you have contributions from others, capital grants, and then the net government activities. And then you get down on the bottom right-hand corner, you have the general revenues, taxes, interest, and other. You have a change in net position, beginning and ending. Okay, so it's kind of opposite of what you might find in a commercial set of financial statements, but it's there for the reasons that I explained. The next sheet, balance sheet, governmental funds, and then there's a bridge between the governmental funds and the statement of net position. And you can see, this is page 15 on the PDF. You have general, debt service, capital projects, other, and then the total. Okay, so overall, you have $1.5 million roughly of fund balance. Some of it's in the other governmental funds, and some of it's in the general fund. The next page is how we bridge between the fund balance and the net position. Obviously, the biggest number on that page is $20 million worth of capital assets and notes payable. And you only have $4.5 million worth of debt. That's pretty good, I think. The next page, 17, is the revenues and expenses for the various funds. General, debt service, capital projects, other, and then the total. Same net fund balance as you had on the prior page, and you can see obviously the general fund is the big money driver where the revenues and the expenses come in. Debt service, you know, you levy taxes, you have some transfers, and then you have the debt service, the principal and interest on the bonds. And then capital projects it's a little different than what you might expect in a commercial entity, in that when you borrow money, it's considered revenue in the capital projects fund. So as you borrow money and you pay for capital expenditures, that's how that fund balance gets removed, or gets, you know, right now you can see it's negative, but that didn't last very long. And then there's a bridge between the changes in fund balances and the changes in net position. Following page is a budget to actual presentation where we don't audit the budget, we just report it. The next is the fiduciary fund, which is the pension plan, and the agency fund, which is just a tax collection account or checkbook. Following that, we have a whole series of footnotes to the financial statements. And these describe who you are, where you are, how you account for things, what's a fund, what's the basis of accounting for the various funds, what are your capital assets and how did they change, how much is your debt, how did it change, what are your revenues, and there's also, because we're in the center region maybe particularly, there's a fairly long list of those other organizations that we are affiliated with, loosely or not, parks, library, Alpha Fire Company, those kinds of things, and our relationship and commitments to those various organizations. They are none of those other agencies or authorities are included in these financial statements. There are some townships and governments that have what are called component units, where they either guarantee the debt or they control the entity. Even some authorities where they don't have the wherewithal to issue debt in their own name, they have to have the borough or the township or somebody guarantee the debt. That becomes a component unit. And sometimes those are blended in, and sometimes they're just reported money out on like a memo home kind of a thing. So those, excuse me, those, like I say, it's revenues, expenses, the details, how you do things. If you want to know what your debt is and how much it is and how much is due in the next 5 or 10 years, that's all in here. If you want to know how much you spend on capital expenditures, that's in here. And like I said, your relationship with all the other related parties and organizations around Center County. And then the last several pages are those checkbook funds that I mentioned, Parks and Rec Library, and the Highway 8 fund is listed in there. And the last pages is our report on compliance under government auditing standards. Anybody have any questions I can answer? Okay.
Rich?
I do
Oh,
not.
Adam, you wanted to make a comment?
No, just very quickly, are you at liberty to give your opinion as the township auditor as to the financial condition of College Township?
I'll give you my personal opinion,
That's
so my
great.
insurance company doesn't call me tomorrow.
That's okay, thank you.
I mean, we've had the pleasure of working with College Township for a number of years, and I think it's solid. I think you have a good staff. I've been working with Adam, many years now on not only the township but the authority, really from its inception. And I think it's pretty well managed, pretty well maintained, and in pretty solid financial condition. One of the indicia of which might be in the back of your report. There's a it's also an MD&A, but I think it's part of the debt footnote. Assets. Bottom of page 37 of the PDF of our report. The borrowing base computed under the provisions of Pennsylvania Act 185 was $8,635,000. So Pennsylvania takes an interest in what happens to its its subsidiaries, its boroughs and townships and those types of organizations. And so there's a calculation based upon an average of 3 years' revenues of how much they think your debt would be safe. Okay? And then that would be your borrowing base, which is 8.6, and you only have, I think, 4.25, outstanding. The other thing, the non-electoral debt, is 250% of that. So you could be borrowing $26 million and still be functional, if you will. And we're way below that. And I understand, you're considering your capital improvement plan. We're actually meeting tomorrow informally to go over some of the financing arrangements and structuring things, and what the various implications of those might be. And I might be back here in a month or so anyway, maybe.
Yeah, actually, maybe August 6th.
Yeah. So.
Thank you.
Anytime.
That was it.
Okay. Rich? Eric? You're Eric.
I mean, still.
You're Eric.
First.
Right, it's been a long day. Eric.
Yeah, Joe, always good to see you.
Thank you.
Always good to hear these kind of reports. I mean, I know, I just really read the first couple pages in the
I
last
know,
couple.
clean opinion. That's what you go for. That's the best we got to give.
Yeah, well, and I know that this isn't a comprehensive evaluation of, internal control processes, but it's refreshing to always see that there's no obvious weaknesses in control, and also that,
If there were, we would be obliged to report them. Actually, there's a companion letter that just sort of hits the high spots on other things we're supposed to bring up with you and that kind of stuff, which will be issued in due course. In addition to that, we do have to look at internal control, and we are obliged to report significant deficiencies, and those significant deficiencies which are material weaknesses. And the material weakness is one that, if not addressed, it could lead to a material misstatement of your financial statements, whether by fraud, collusion, misstatement, misreporting, misrepresentations, and those types of things. So it's pretty tight.
and I appreciate that. I bring it up only because there's been a couple of more high-profile issues that have arisen in local municipalities recently that seem to indicate less effective.
You wonder how those things can go on for so long and amount to so much before somebody figures it out, but
Yeah.
I guess it happens.
And then just lastly, I couldn't help but be happy to see the reference to prudent, not the same words, but prudent debt management.
Yeah, I think there is. Yeah.
Yeah. Another year, another clean audit. I'm good with that.
Tracy did not have any questions or comments. You are rich.
I'm rich.
You are rich.
Yeah, again, good to see you, Joe.
Yep.
To Eric's point, it's quality the auditor contributes to things like that not being caught. So you have a significant role in making sure we're on the straight and narrow. But I really appreciate, I mean, you came in and affirmed what we believed we thought, and in particular, this is the golden profit and loss statement where revenue is higher than budget, expense is lower than budget, which maximizes the net. And then when you look at our long-term debt to capital assets, it's like 20%. That's a good day.
Yeah.
So again, you affirm the hard work of staff from the budgeting and accounting standpoint of it and everything, and we really appreciate it.
Okay. I have no questions, but thank you very much, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you for your good work.
If
You get home
it would
before
be
dark
appropriate
tonight.
if you would move to accept the audit as opposed to approve the audit.
So moved.
Second?
So second.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Any opposed? No? It is accepted. Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Does that mean we can pay Joe?
All right. Tonight, we have no plans. Next up, we have reports. First, we'll start with the manager's update, please.
Yes, thank you. I don't have any significant items myself to report, but I would like to give our Director of Community and Economic Development, Carrie Knepp, an opportunity to report on a number of things that she has been involved and engaged with. So Carrie, I'll go ahead and turn that over to you.
Great, thank you. The most recent was today. We had visitors from the Department of Community and Economic Development from the state who met with Adam and I, representatives from the chamber, Representative Paul Takak, and the local developer to continue conversations about acquisition of the and revitalization of the Nittany Mall. So we met at the mall and toured DCED through the mall to talk about kind of what's going on there. And then on a larger scale, what we have going on in the Dale Summit area with form-based code, with the number of developments that we have going on around the mall, and how the mall is kind of that central piece to all of the work that's going on out there. We've been working on this project for about 2.5 years now. It's probably been longer than that, but my involvement in it has been about 2.5 years, trying to seek funding from the state to help with acquisition and revitalization costs. And so we had DCED out today to talk about opportunities and see if there's some other funding sources that we might not be aware of for helping out with this situation. We've applied for a number, and by I say we, I mean kind of the group that's working on this and the developer have applied for a number of different programs, one of which was PA sites, and we had been deemed ineligible for that one. It's really, that's more focused on industrial site development, and this would be more commercial development. So talking with DCED to make sure that we were doing everything we could in regards to that application and that program, but also to see if there's other funding opportunities for that. And through those conversations, really getting DCED aware of all of the economic growth that's happening in College Township in the center region and center county, and talking about other projects that we have going on. So we presented them with maps of the Dale Summit regulating plan that's in draft currently that you all reviewed, I believe, last meeting, as well as the Rockview mapping that had been done to talk about kind of how all of that plays together in the revitalization that the mall is a key piece of. So that was today's. I don't know, Adam, if you want to add anything to that visit discussion.
No, I think you covered it very well. Thank you.
We have a number of other economic projects going on, primarily out of the IDA, that I think are important for council to be aware of. Yesterday at our board meeting, we approved what we're calling the Business Pulse Project, which is a business survey for College Township businesses. So we've had a working group that's been working on that since January, put together about an 18-question survey. And the difference in this survey compared to others that just get sent out is we're really going to try and have a boots-on-the-ground approach to this to build the relationship with the businesses in College Township. So much like we've done with the small business grant where we've gone to the businesses to present that opportunity, we'll be going to the businesses with this survey. Postcard with a QR code. It's not ready yet, or I would show it to you. But it'll be an electronic survey that they can complete online. We'll gather that data, and that's going to help influence the strategic planning for 2027 to 2030. Sorry, whatever 5 years of that is, 32. So we'll use that data, and the idea is that once we compile the data from this survey, we'd like to have an opportunity where we invite council, the businesses that engaged in it, and really talk about what those results look like for the community and how the IDA can help with filling some of those needs in the community. So that will release hopefully August 1st. So you'll be seeing that go out. I think we have a little over 300 businesses that we've identified within College Township that will be making that approach to. The other large project that we're working on is business incubator space, recognizing the need for kind of a second phase incubator, noticing kind of what's happening with businesses coming out of the university, Innovation Park, and then what that next step looks like. And there's kind of a gap between businesses that need to move out of the incubator and then move into the community. And so we're looking at how we can fill that gap there, which plays into the Dale Summit revitalization. So we're targeting that area for a large incubator project. We just approved yesterday to apply for an ARC, an Appalachian Regional Commission area development grant for planning to do a feasibility and sustainability study for that project. So we'll be putting that application in with CEDACOG. And then in the interim, we're working on a micro incubator project to fill some immediate needs that businesses have of space. So we toured a location actually this morning to see if it might be a good fit for something around 10 to 20,000 square feet to house some of these businesses that we need to get moving or need to grow out of the space at Innovation Park incubator. And so you'll be hearing more about that project moving forward as well. So those are kind of the primary things going on economic development-wise within College Township.
Mike, did you have anything that you wanted to report on?
Not at this time.
Okay, very good.
Any
Thank you.
questions for Carrie? Next up are the COG Regional County and Liaison reports. Gretchen, do you have any reports since our last meeting?
I have the Watershed Commission report. Is that for now?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, so the Spring Creek Watershed Commission met yesterday and went over the financial update report and the budget for the year. A couple things I wanted to point out, though. One is that there was a public hearing on June 24th at the library at SCLO. It was well attended. This is about Rockview and the future of Rockview and stakeholder input and community input. There was standing room only, so it was very well attended. I think 17 people made comments, and there were written comments submitted as well. They're planning on doing some more of these types of meetings as the process continues about the future of Rockview. And within the Spring Creek Watershed Commission, an idea was proposed to form a work group within the commission just about the future of Rockview. And that will seem to be very well supported and will be voted on at the September meeting. And then one other thing I wanted to point out, and staff may already know about this, but I was told to communicate it, so I will communicate it, which is that there is a Center County countywide action plan CAP grant subaward program, and we were told yesterday at the commission meeting that all townships are encouraged to apply. There's a whole website about it, but the due date, I believe, is September 18th, so it's sort of coming up in the near future. And Elise, who is from the Watershed Commission and the main sort of actually paid employee there, has said that through her involvement with the Acres Project, which I've told you all about and I passed out the brochure, that she said a lot of times townships don't want to apply for these grants because they are not so keen on the maintenance for the future, but that the Acres program can actually provide maintenance for the first couple years of such a project, and then after that they're usually self-sustained. And so she was just really encouraging townships to apply for this, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Eric, reports.
Yeah, I had a TLU meeting on July 2nd, and I thought I had forwarded the report.
You may have, Eric.
It just didn't make the agenda, and a few of my additional comments. So
Okay.
I don't have anything further to report on that unless anybody has any questions. But we did the ad hoc Parks and Library Committee did meet yesterday. So I can provide a quick verbal update. We've spent the past couple of meetings pretty deep discussion in three areas. Existing oversight of both of the committees, the fiduciary responsibilities of both the elected officials, us, and the board members, and then the processes that each municipality uses to recruit, interview, appoint, and then most importantly, communicate with those authority board members. At yesterday's meeting, we focused on the first two. That was the oversight and the fiduciary responsibilities. Staff provided an extensively detailed and very valuable summary of the existing oversight of both and the fiduciary responsibilities of both the elected officials and the appointed board members. It was extraordinarily helpful. We walked through it, and in the process, with staff's help, we were able to identify gaps or overlaps, potentially, in the process. Not all are bad, but in the current setup we have with the authority oversight, elected official oversight, other regulatory compliance oversights, and then maybe more importantly, gaps. Because if you recall, the charge given this committee was to identify the appropriate role for elected officials when it comes to oversight both the library and parks. So it was a really, I think it's been an extraordinarily productive discussion and learning experience for the committee members. While we're still coalescing around recommendations, I will say that the recommendations will include the written material that staff has prepared on the existing oversight and the existing fiduciary responsibilities, because I can tell you, as one of the veteran elected officials on that, there was a lot there that I did not know. And there's a lot in there that I think would be very useful to the other elected officials in the center region in the way that it will provide some necessary context for our roles. Our roles, you know, in relationship to the boards and in relation to the other entities that have some oversight responsibility. So we're not to the point yet where we have recommendations on committees or anything like that, but there's a number of things coming out of this discussion that will be also part of the recommendations. I'll just give you one quick example. You know, one of the issues that is contributing to the misunderstanding of responsibilities and some of the confusion when it comes to general forum is communication. And you may or may not have noticed, I've noticed, that the remaining that staff puts together their own report now for COG committees, which is really nice, because then as a member, all I have to do is forward that to you. So it really helps, and then we can spend the meetings talking about and engaging on the issues instead of reporting on what went on. You know, it gives everybody an opportunity to read. So anyways, there's lots of things in motion already that are going to clear, I think, up the roles as they are currently perceived to be. And then next month, while we will try to finalize and build consensus on some recommendations as it may apply to ongoing oversight, I need to add that part of what staff provided and part of the necessary education that's going on here is everybody reading and understanding the 4 existing documents that help govern our roles in these. And obviously that's the COG Articles of Agreement, Pennsylvania Municipal Authorities Act, and then specific to Park and Rec, the Center Region Park and Rec Intergovernmental Agreement, and then specific to the library, the Joint Articles of Agreement for the library. So those 4 documents, along with the work that we've done on understanding oversight, current oversight and fiduciary responsibility, hopefully between all of that we'll be able to coalesce around some recommendations or some understanding on how we think everyone's time would be best used going forward. And then also start the discussion on the third piece of that, which is understanding what each municipality does in regards to recruiting, interviewing, appointing, and then communicating with authority board members. Because I think what we then can do is come up with some kind of agreement on maybe what we could recommend to all municipalities to do, because clearly, as Ben will tell you, there's varying levels of communication going on between the different municipalities, and that just hampers our efforts to work together regionally on issues, and it really compromises the integrity of the time that staff and other elected officials put into these committee meetings. So that's where we're at. We're probably a few meetings away from anything from me to produce to you as far as trying to build consensus on recommendations. However, I will share with you the documents that outline the current oversight of those two entities, and what has been determined to be our fiduciary responsibilities, along with that of the authority members, board members, because that's not going to change, you know. And if you haven't already, and you have free time, you may want to browse those 4 documents, because they do speak to some of the responsibilities, of some of the oversight responsibilities that we have. So a lot to wade through. I give a lot of credit to staff and to the members of the committee for hanging through some heavy lifting these couple months. We're not going to get done in 6 months. It may be a year. But hey, it took the Parks and Governance Committee 3 years to come up with it. So hey, we're still under 3 years. But yeah, we're moving forward. It's working. It's working, I think, as we intended. We did incur a little scope creep, but I think it was necessary, and I think it's healthy.
Thank you. Anything else? Tracy?
I didn't have any.
Rich?
I just note that you cited one of the documents out of the Parks Governance as
Yes.
part of your work, so that was rewarding.
Only fair.
That was rewarding.
Only fair. And I will add that Kathleen has been sitting in on these meetings also, the chair of our Parks Rep and the chair of the Center Region Park and Rec.
The only thing of note is that Finance canceled for July,
What?
leaning towards August. We're also canceling Parks Governance. That just came out today because we're running into some things slowing us up in getting out. And you'll probably hear about those in the next month or so. We may ask for executive committee's assistance. That's all I have.
Thank you. I had public safety this week. It was an informational only meeting. Eric Leeds, who is the resilience officer for Pima, came to talk with us. He was here for the disaster preparedness tabletop exercise in April. And he's interested in coming back and meeting and partnering with people and sharing lessons learned through Pima, and also how Pima functions, not necessarily to direct and guide us, but really what resources are available and what aren't available. So that was helpful, and we had the chair of the Emergency Management Council join us, as well as Pam Adams. She had worked on the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan. So, you know, really starting to look more at the climate impacts. I mean, these storms are not one-offs. These longer, power outages will become a fact, and the disaster workshop that we did in April looked at different scenarios, which included long-term power outage under heat conditions, under freezing conditions. So, the things are starting to come together, people are starting to connect, and I think that's very helpful in terms of the resiliency piece, which is different than the recovery piece. So the important piece is the resiliency and the planning, and how do we do that? How do we identify our resources? So he was very helpful to us. So that was about the main issue that we had. The other thing is, I just wanted to report back that I think since our last meeting, the ad hoc committee on benefits, employee benefits, has met twice. Eric and I have been meeting with Kim, Mike, Adam, and Alba, and we're making some good progress on looking at how we can impact some of those increases in costs that we're going to see, and putting a lot of due diligence in there. And I want to give, a thank you, especially to Kim and Alba, who have done some really heavy lifting as staff and brought a lot of information to the table, and it's complex information, and they're making it understandable for us. So we're working, and we'll be meeting again, I think, in just a few short weeks. So we're keeping busy. We're staying
Thank you, Susan and Eric.
We're staying off the streets. It's been a really good exercise. And let's see, staff, other committee reports. Our Planning Commission representative is not here tonight. He did share with us that Planning Commission has not met since our last meeting, and he is also dealing with a foot injury. So I'll make sure we send our best to Matt and get him hopefully back on his feet sooner than later. But he got in touch with several of us. So I see members of the Parks Committee here. Are you here to report tonight? Okay.
We can make something up if you like.
No, it's okay. It's okay, but if maybe next time. But we're glad to see you here.
It's for the resolution.
Okay,
Parks
all right, so we'll get to that. Okay, so we'll get to that on the consent agenda. And no other staff things. Do we have a DEIB report tonight, please?
Yes, shortly. Several months of recognition, French American Heritage Month, Black, Indigenous, and Peoples of Color Mental Health Month, and Disability Pride Month. A couple important days of note. July 14th was International Non-Binary Peoples Day, and July 26th is National Disability Independence Day.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other reports? All right. Next up, oh boy, is our consent agenda. And tonight, on the consent agenda, bear with me, we have CA1 minutes, the approval of our June 18th regular council meeting minutes and the June 25th College Township special meeting minutes. CA2 is correspondence. CA2A is the letter from Catalin Pribag dated June 18th, 2026 regarding the proposed Wawa development. CA2B is an email from John Pitterly dated June 20th, 2026 regarding the Radiant Life Ministry. And CA2C is a letter from GFT dated July 1st, 2026 regarding the time extension for the PSU ADL preliminary final land development plan to November 3rd, 2026. CA3 action items, we have CA3A, which is the leave of absence policy update. CA3B is a letter from State College Assembly of God dated June 17th, 2026, requesting a noise waiver. And CA3C is Proclamation P-26-08, recognizing July as Parks and Recs Month. Are there any members of council? Are there any members of council that would like to pull any of the consent agenda items before we approve the remaining items?
Shouldn't we pull the proclamation?
We can, but are there any other items?
Oh, any,
We
I'm
will
sorry, I
pull
didn't
the
hear.
proclamation, so someone can pull it.
Quick question on CA2A. So maybe we just pull it,
Yeah.
get the
Go ahead
question
and pull
out.
it. Sure. Anything else?
CA2B.
Okay. And I would like to pull CA3B. CA3B, yeah, okay. So we have CA2A, CA2B, CA2C. We also have CA3B and CA3C. So with what's left of the consent agenda, would anyone like to make a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? All right, let's start with CA3C, since we have 4 people waiting to do that, the proclamation. Do we have a copy of the proclamation?
Yeah, I do. Do you want one?
Do you want to read that? Rick, do you?
Yeah, here. There you
Oh,
go.
I have it right up here.
Okay.
Okay.
So you want to see it?
Thank you, ma'am. Oh, wait, no, this is the ordinance for the.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
no.
yeah.
Would you like, would you like me to read it?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay, excellent. College Township, Center County, Pennsylvania, proclamation P-26-08, designation of July 2026 as Parks and Recreation Month. Whereas Parks and Recreation is an integral part of communities throughout this country, including College Township, Center County, PA, and whereas Parks and Recreation promotes health and wellness, improving the physical and mental health of people who live near parks, and whereas Parks and Recreation promotes time spent in nature, which positively impacts mental health by increasing cognitive performance and well-being, and alleviating illnesses such as depression, attention deficit disorders, and Alzheimer's. And whereas Parks and Recreation encourages physical activities by providing space for sports, hiking trails, swimming pools, and many other activities designed to promote active lifestyles. And whereas Parks and Recreation programming and education activities such as out-of-school time programming, youth sports, and environmental education are critical to childhood development. And whereas Parks and Recreation increases a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas Parks and Recreation is a fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community, and whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas College Township has 24 parks and recreational areas totaling over 270 acres, and whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas College Township, Center County recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources, now therefore be it proclaimed by College Township Council that July 2026 is recognized as Parks and Recreation Month in College Township, Center County. This proclamation authorized this 16th day of July 2026 by the College Township Council, Center County, Pennsylvania.
Thank you. And did members of the committee have comments they wanted to share with council as part of the proclamation tonight?
I was just going to say,
If you want to come to the podium?
oh, sure.
You gotta come back, Sue.
And then if we can do a photo, because we have been promoting it on social media, so I'd like
You have
to.
a copy? The hard copy?
Sue Smith, I just have a quick question. We had a person who's very interested in being on the Parks and Recreation Committee, and we wondered if there's any progress made in getting him part of us.
So we have to do an ABC interview with him.
Oh, okay.
And because we had
But-
our executive session tonight, we weren't able to do that, but we're looking to schedule the
Good.
interview as quickly as
Because
possible.
I think he would be a really good addition.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, that's a great endorsement, so thank you. Thank you.
Caleb
Yeah.
Babarchuk. His dad was on the Environmental Advisory Committee when I was on it 100 years ago, and we got booted because we were too environmental. And I have to throw in that tomorrow night is an amazing concert on the Village Green. Just get this fog out of here. Urban fusion. It's gonna be really good.
Yeah. Thank you, Sue. All right, so we have a hard copy of the proclamation
How about a
and,
move and a second and an
oh,
adoption?
yeah, okay. Those formalities, it's been a long day. So thank you for the reminder. Yes, I would accept a motion to accept the
Yeah.
proclamation? Yeah, adopt the proclamation. Proclamation,
26-08.
thank you.
Yes, I will move to adopt
Okay.
proclamation P-26-08.
Second, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Now we can do a photo? Thank you. Do you guys want to come up so we can do a photo with you and give you the proclamation?
Or are you gonna do it?
I'll take a
Need-
photo.
oh,
I
you're
want a
gonna take
picture
the
with
photo.
you guys, yeah. Today's also Parks and Rec Professional Day, so just want to acknowledge Public Works and the work that they do on that, as well as recognizing Center Region Parks and Rec and the work they do on the regional parks too.
Sounds like
Thank you,
another
Public
photo.
Works.
Yeah.
2 photos.
Go out to the show tomorrow. All right, everybody up?
Is this all of us or just Park and Rec?
I think,
No, I think,
No, you should be council
it's a
council.
proclamation, so.
yeah.
You have to take a page out of the county commission.
I was gonna say, you've been watching the county commissioners too much.
Give that to Tracy, she can hand that to.
Of course you
Yeah,
say that.
it's the one that needs signed.
Okay.
So.
How are you? We usually stand over here, so come on over here, you guys are in the center. All right, let's go. Dave?
Come on, Dave.
We'll surround you.
Where's our proclamation?
Oh, man. Squeeze it in there.
Turn sideways.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, guys.
It has to be signed.
Yes. Thank you.
Do we have a, do you want to sign?
Sure,
Send them on their way?
I can certainly do that. Didn't get it in a fancy,
I know, we didn't get our fancy green folder.
Katie's away.
We've done 8 proclamations this year. We've been a
We're
proclamation
a
busy.
proclamation machine, that's what we,
Wow.
we've done more proclamations this year than we have in 30 years.
I kind of was thinking the same thing.
Combined.
Right.
Yes, we haven't got ever to number,
We
well,
usually have done biking pretty
yeah, and-
Sometimes we're gonna say it's been a long day. I need help tonight. Not too
Thanks, Mike.
yeah,
Well,
well,
that was just the first one of
The consent agenda, yeah.
the consent agenda.
Okay, next up on our consent agenda items that we have pulled is
2A.
CA2A.
yeah, just real quick, there is nothing in that article that I think any of us disagree with. I just wondered if that information that staff put together for us two meetings ago, that we shared with the community that was here, might be a helpful thing to
Right.
forward to,
If I'm not mistaken, I believe that we have that online, which was
Okay.
the, what the township can and cannot control relative to development. So we do have it online. I'm not sure if this individual had received that or not.
yeah, it's hard to tell, but it seems on the surface that they hadn't
Okay.
looked at it.
Well, we can endeavor to get that to them.
The last paragraph makes me think they don't fully understand what we
Okay.
can or can't do, but there are areas that we can
Sure.
work to mitigate impacts. I think that's really our job, so.
Right. Okay.
Okay, CA2B, the email from Mr. Pearley regarding the Radiant Life Ministry. Was that your call?
Yeah, that was my call. I just had just a clarifying question on this, and I know, Adam, you sent an email on this.
I did,
Prior
yes.
to this, yeah. I just had a question on when these types of things happen. Is there, like, other resources that we can direct them to? Because he seems pretty passionate about and knowing these people. Is there other resources? I know right now it has to end in September. But is there any other recourse that we can send them to?
Yeah, and I'm going to ask Mark to comment here in a moment. One of the difficulties in this particular case is the fact that this is the result of a zoning hearing board determination. And as such, council doesn't have the the scope or latitude
Right.
to impress upon, or to weigh in on that particular decision.
Right.
That has complicated things. That said, I do know that Mark has actually spoken with representatives from the church on multiple occasions.
Okay.
And I'll let him speak to some of the things that he has tried to suggest to them relative to this.
Yes, to start out with what Adam said is this, before your time on council, this resulted from two non-conforming uses in a particular location in College Township. They went before the zoning hearing board and were not granted variances. We then went into a tolling agreement, which is a sort of a way that we could stretch this out while we were waiting for the area plan stuff to develop, because it was anticipated this would probably alleviate the issues. At the expiration of the initial tolling agreement, which I believe was like 6 months, we had to reconvene the zoning hearing board and probably kind of stretched further than we should and allowed for a second tolling agreement with an absolutely drop dead date of September of this year. And this goes back to the conditional use hearing that we just had. Some prior to your time here, council made the decision that they did not want to allow for the place of assemblies at a conditional use in the industrial, but they did want to allow for the indoor recreation use. So, you know, it started with council did not want to allow one use, and we were waiting for the area
Form
plan to
based,
come
right.
through. It hasn't happened, so
Right.
we're kind of at a standstill where it cannot really be extended beyond that drop dead date. And I really think we'd be pushing to get the area plan into a pending ordinance that may alleviate this
Right.
prior to September.
But you've also met on
Yes.
several
Yeah,
occasions.
that's why I'm
numerous
just wondering
conversations
the alternate, the alternate.
Yeah.
And not that saying that that's our responsibility, I'm just curious.
Yes. I made multiple suggestions. I still believe firmly that once the area plan comes through, this use will be allowed in that particular area. We've discussed, probably had 4 or 5 different phone calls and at least one visit at the counter with the pastor of this church, trying to recommend odds and ends, and actually he just reached out to me about a week and a half ago, inquiring whether they could go into the mall short term. My suggestion was, I think if they like where they are, there's a good likelihood that it's going to eventually be allowed, and possibly try and find something that they can lease on a month-to-month until they know, before they completely pull out of it. But they have to cease their use in that place in September and carry the hope that they may be able to return at a later date.
Okay. And then I just had a quick, you had something?
It's on that? Are you moving to a different subject?
No, it's on still on the same subject,
Okay.
but you can make your comment.
I just want to respectfully offer that it really didn't start where Mark said. It started when the landlord leased to someone.
Right.
Illegally.
Yeah, I mean, so everything Mark has done, I think, is talked about, has highlighted how flexible and helpful we have been to really bail out the landlord.
Right, yeah, right.
You know, so I just wanted to make sure that we recognize that's where it started.
Well, that's what I
We
said,
came
when we
in-
discovered the uses in.
Right.
We came in and have been nothing but help
Okay.
in trying to bridge that gap,
Yeah, and-
in my opinion.
And you, yeah, just one additional question, if
Sure,
that's
please.
okay. Adam, when you sent this, was this sufficient for him?
For Mr. Pitterly,
Yeah.
it was.
Okay.
But again, you know, his concern is primarily for the church and the congregation.
Right.
But I think my response to him satisfied Mr. Pitterly. I've not heard more.
Okay, that's good. All right, thank you for obliging me. Thank you, Susan.
Yeah, sure, thank you. And thank you for the explanation, Eric, that's helpful. And Mark, for all you've done.
Yeah.
My question was CA3B, the church noise waiver, the movie at the Assembly of God Church. Where they're citing it is almost immediately adjacent to the, I think it's the Everhart neighborhood right next to them. Is it possible that we could ask the church to communicate with the neighbors that would be directly next to it? Is that something that's in our purview or no?
We could make a strong suggestion.
I just noticed it's in that area that
You're
borders
right.
right on the back by the Everhart neighborhood.
I didn't notice, did they include a map with
They
those?
They
Yeah,
did,
they did.
yes.
Because when I had the initial conversations via phone, I thought they indicated they were going to be on what was once the football field side of the church.
I think it's on the other side.
Yeah, it's on the
That
other
was part of
side.
our
Yeah,
discussion.
no, it's, if you look at it, it's on the side that when you come in, you turn over to the, you turn to the
Yeah,
right.
they clearly have it
Okay.
closer to
To the home, to
Everhart
the homes.
Village.
The
And-
homes, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just to let the neighbors know that this is happening, that would be great, if they could.
Well, actually, couldn't we make that a condition if,
It's, yeah, I mean,
That's
you're
well within
granting
our
a
right.
noise waiver.
Alright.
It could
That's
be
what I was
subject to a location either different or, I'm trying to remember my directions here.
And to the west.
To the west, yes, to the west.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the waiver's reasonable, but I think communicating, because it is pretty close to those homes, and it's unusual. Do we need to make a motion on that?
Yes, if you're going to attach some type of a condition, I would recommend that we move to approve the waiver subject to
Okay.
your.
Reaching out to
what
the
you
The applicant
discussed.
communicating with
With
the
the neighbor.
adjoining neighborhood.
Yeah.
Right.
That.
Okay, does anybody want to make that motion?
so moved.
Okay.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you.
Who's filling in for Katie to decipher our motions tonight?
Katie said
It's
Zoom.
being recorded.
Okay.
Yeah, Katie's gonna be doing that. All right, then, I'll accept a motion to accept the other items of the consent agenda that were pulled and discussed tonight.
So moved.
All right, a second.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we're through the consent agenda. All right, on to old business. Our first matter of business tonight is OB1, Ordinance 0-26-4, Chapter 170, signed amendment. This is a discussion and potentially an action item to move to approve or the ordinance tonight. And I believe, Lindsay, you're going to give us a recap?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Get here. Okay, so as you know, over the past several months, the College Township Community and Economic Development Team have been working to prepare revisions to our sign ordinance, Chapter 170. This is to better accommodate stadiums, arenas, and event centers. After numerous iterations and council review, council seemed to come, or, felt satisfied enough to set a public hearing, which, happened this evening. Before the public hearing, the County Planning and Community Development Office and the Center Regional Planning Agency and Commission had the opportunity to review and comment on the proposed draft. So in your packets tonight, we shared the draft sign ordinance, the letter from the County Planning and Community Development Office, and the letter from the Center Regional Planning Commission. Our Planning Commission, seems like forever ago, made a recommendation to the council make a motion to approve the changes. They added a few things, as in allowing it township-wide, and then we altered a definition a little bit to satisfy the Planning Commission's recommendation. We had the Center Regional Planning Commission meeting that was held on July 2nd. The CRPC reviewed the materials and had a few questions, mostly regarding some definitions, what's happening on non-event days were their biggest concerns. Ultimately, CRPC did write us a letter indicating that it is consistent with the 2013 comprehensive plan, but they also wanted some more information, so they ended up tabling that discussion for a future date. But getting into the ordinance, just to give you an overview of where we've been and kind of where it stands right now. You know, we tried to better regulate the stadiums, arenas, and event centers. We prepared definitions to help clarify. We considered dark sky principles. We worked with a local expert in that arena, and we also, you know, worked to consider wildlife impacts and human health impacts too over the past few months. In addition, we also identified nighttime hours to help accommodate the impacts to the community at large, of course, regarding lights at night. And then we also allowed for the sign displays to be active while the roads are closed adjacent to the use. We adjusted the building square footage to determine the sign square footage and tried to minimize the nighttime visual impacts by decreasing the permitted nits during nighttime hours. We changed those to 500 to 300, which is about 67% less bright if you think of 500 to 300. So that was a little bit helpful. And noted that all signs cannot be electric. Electronic signs, only 30%. And then we discussed the height of the sign on the building. So with all of that, tonight the ordinance is in front of council for your discussion, your comments, and ultimately, if you're comfortable, your approval of the sign ordinance. So I'm here, Mark's here, Carrie, and Mike, if you have any questions.
Okay. Before we make a motion, do any members of council have any questions, any comments? Please.
OB1B, the county comments, they offered 2 questions. Have we reviewed those? Any concerns? Or are we good
Yes,
with-
we did. Thank you for asking. I had it right there. We did review those. The first one is in regards to the illumination definition, that versus electronic or digital signs. And it is a different definition overall, illuminated signs versus electronic signs. The illuminated signs are the ones that aren't moving. Just think of like the glow, you know, and that's all. So that was easy to kind of confirm. The second one about the exemption, they do exempt signs in the UPD, but they still, with the criteria found within the ordinance, it still references the section in the sign code and has a cap on the ultimate size and height. So that, and plus, since the signage type is, you know, not really permitted in that area, it's not applicable in this case. But that one threw me off a little bit too, but I remember looking at that early on and thinking, oh yeah, that's right. So I feel like we have those taken care of.
Good. And just, if you didn't read, they also commended the township on beginning to incorporate dark sky lighting principles. So that's all I had. Thank you.
I had some questions.
Please.
Yeah, similar to what Rich's questions were, only mine I have to do with Center Region Planning Agencies. The last paragraph on the first page, they had 3 questions. And the first was, what sign types apply to the stadiums, arenas, and event centers? Is that the discussion that we had about what's a sign and what's a name of a donor? You know, like, is the West Shore Stadium thing a sign? Is that what this is? Is that what they're talking about?
Yeah, I think they.
Discerning what things are going to count towards the sign.
Yeah, I think there was some confusion there with the different types, with freestanding, with building mounted, with, what else are they saying in here?
Well, that's the first
Marquee
thing
style.
they're saying. So that, it isn't about identifying things versus signs.
Yeah, type, structure.
Okay, and we're pretty comfortable with how we identify them in there?
I believe so.
Okay. And then the second thing is, how signs are intended to operate on non-event days. I don't remember us really talking that much about that.
We really didn't talk
Are
about
we
that.
We did cover.
Yes.
Yeah.
The signs, we're not touching the signs, but the digital electronic things, those are limited only during.
So that's why we didn't talk about them, because that
Yeah.
part's not changing.
Yes,
Correct.
signs are separate than the digital electronic
That's-
signage.
That's right.
Also, keep in mind that the digital electronic signs are only operable when the
On-
streets are closed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
They can have them on
But
static.
they cannot move.
But
Yeah,
they're
they
not,
can't have-
they're not to be moving when the street is open for travel.
Yeah, we specify that they have to be unlit or motionless, I think.
And then that kind of leads into the last question, and that's how it would be measured and enforced.
Right. I indicate, the one gentleman at the meeting was saying how they measure light in their township, which is similar to what we do because it's at the boundary line. So if the light trespass is going over the boundary line, then that's, in violation. But I try to explain that Penn State has a very large property, and the property line isn't necessarily next to the stadium. But the response to that was, just to try to find another way to measure light in that area.
Well, and that's something I had been bringing up at each stage, because normally it's the neighbors, it's measured at your neighbor's property line. So we have them figured out where we're going to measure that?
Well, we still have written in there the amount of nits you're allowed, things of that, so they're.
So that's at the sign?
Yes,
Makes an assumption of
so if we
only.
keep it limited at the sign, it's not gonna.
Okay. Okay, and we probably covered that, I just wanted to make sure, since they were questioning it.
It wasn't overall, the meeting was not that bad. It's part of the process. I think that's
Yeah,
why I
no,
liked
it's
it.
good. It's good that we have these other entities vetting these.
Oh, yeah, extra review, extra eyes, it's helpful.
But in the
they
end,
also
they
didn't-
support it.
Yeah, they also didn't have the level of education that we've been
Yeah.
forced to get into.
And I
to
did
get
and
this.
still forgot most of it, so.
Signage is tough.
Sure, please.
Okay, so my first question is, it's a process question. So if the Center Region Planning Agency voted to table it, but we're gonna take action on it tonight, but they said they were gonna talk about it at a future meeting?
Yeah, that's,
Process-wise, how does that make any sense?
ultimately, we are looking for it is consistent with the plan. We haven't really discussed on a staff level what we're gonna do with the
Well,
tabling.
technically, we've met our burden and in accordance with the MPC. We're required to take these type of ordinance changes directly to, in this case, the Center Region Planning Commission for their review and consideration. The most important element of that consideration by that entity really ends up being the recommendation that we actually did receive, which was that the changes that we are anticipating are in fact consistent with the comprehensive plan. The fact that there's additional information that CRPC desires and they did not take specific action either for or against is not required in order for council to have met their burden in accordance with the MPC. I wasn't trying to double speak on that or to confuse, but basically, we need to take it there. If we end up with a determination of consistency, that's really the critical piece that we need to be able to move forward. And we receive that. We can go back to CRPC and provide the answers to those questions, which I think we've answered here tonight, generally speaking. And that we find, and they can take action. But that's not necessary for us in order to deal with the issue this evening, if that's what council chooses to do.
Okay, thank you. That was my first question. So, okay, I'll just take that answer for what it is. And then, my second question, and this was actually something that we had all talked about several times in our conversations about the ordinance, which is, and they brought it up too, CRPA, which is the compliance question. I mean, there's nothing, I mean, how does the township make anybody comply to any ordinance? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, we talked about it and we sort of said, well, hopefully they'll do it and people won't complain to Penn State if they don't follow this, but like, what would be the answer to CRP? Because we had the same question about
I'd
compliance.
send that to Mark.
The lighting expert we dealt with did indicate that he would be able to do these measurements. So we have, and you know, there are some things we don't have the tools or the knowledge to do, but he assured us it is very easy. They have the proper stuff. He could do it very, very easily upon our request.
And that would be working with the zoning officer, who is our enforcement of those ordinances. So Mark would be directly involved in the enforcement of that.
Yes, we have meters. I can measure light trespass, but I cannot measure some of these things. But he's assured us that he would be willing to, if we request it, he would be able to get us those measurements.
Gretchen, when you say compliance and how do people comply with all of our other ordinances?
Yeah.
We typically, you know, we don't go out and monitor everything. It's
Right.
mostly if someone sees something and they'll report it to us. So if someone would go by and say, oh, we think this is too bright, then we start taking action from there. And that's the case with a lot of our ordinances.
And the mechanism to do that is permit.
Yeah.
So the permit is going to have conditions. So if in fact Penn State comes in tomorrow and they want to submit a permit for this kind of sign, we would actually assign conditions to the permit that would be stipulated, which would include a number of these things, hours of operation, et cetera, et cetera. That is all going to be part and parcel of the permit, and that is what the zoning officer then enforces off of in terms of actually ensuring that that applicant is actually meeting the standards that's captured within the permit.
So thank you. And so Lindsay, if somebody were to complain about the lighting at Beaver Stadium, then could just one individual citizen trigger this for Mark to contact this person to go measure these with these special equipment for nits?
Yeah, and a lot of the times on the permit, we use the ordinance language, we take the ordinance language straight from the ordinance and place it in the permit. So they are required to comply with everything on there based on signing that permit. So yes.
And it wouldn't have to be council or majority of council, it could literally be one person?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right. All right, any other questions or comments? All right. Then would anyone like to make a motion?
I motion that we agree to accept ordinance 02604, chapter 170 amendments.
Do we have to say approve?
Accept, approve.
Okay.
Accept,
Yeah,
oh,
I'm
okay,
always stuck with that.
approve.
All right. A second?
I'll second it, but I'm hoping we'll have a little discussion before we take a vote for the discussion.
Okay, all right. So other items you'd like to discuss?
Well, yeah, we have a second, so it's on the floor.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, I missed that they didn't take action, that they tabled it. Historically, that doesn't happen, and I just want to ask, Lindsay, were you at the?
I was, yeah.
Is it your feeling that generally these were questions, and do you have the feeling that when you go back next month with the answers that we talked about today, there would be really no objection, or more importantly, no consensus within them to make any further changes or revisions? Not that they really ever do that, but
I do feel that as a result of the discussion that we had tonight, we could write up what we talked about and even submit it to them. We could go and present it to them, and I think that they would be satisfied.
okay,
Because there
that's the
wasn't a
part
lot
I'm
of
after.
heartburn.
Do you think they would be satisfied?
Yeah, I don't, and I mean, just knowing, because, you know, they said, great job, we're happy to see you guys are doing this, and you're considering, so there were a lot of positive aspects in the discussion. Just those few clarifying questions, I think would satisfy them. That's how I felt that night.
Because we want to be good neighbors.
Yeah, and I'm a precedent guy, we always get action from them, and now don't have action, but I'm willing to support the motion if we're just talking about a formality here, as opposed to something that you're gonna go back in a month and they're gonna say, oh, and we're gonna say, oh, shoot.
They did not, if I may, they did not identify any fatal flaws in the ordinance based on their conversation.
No, it was a lot of, opinions about different types of lights, blue lights versus red lights, that we've discussed a little bit. And no, I don't feel that it was that. I think there were just, at first it was real good, and then there were some questions and it got a little bumpy, and then, ultimately, I feel like if they, by saying that it's consistent, but asking these questions, that's kind of, I don't know, it's
No, I just want to respect their role in the process. And if we genuinely feel they fully support it and just wanted more information, then because I support the ordinance, but I support the process.
I do too. I know exactly what you mean, and I don't think I've never seen a letter that was kind of conflicting, similar to this one.
I have a question about process then. There is some concern, some members are expressing concern about process and the timing of the process, the chronology of the process. If we were to move the vote, the motion and the vote to the next meeting after the next Regional Planning Commission meeting, how does that affect the public hearing timing and all of that?
You've held the public hearing, so, I mean, and there have been no changes that have been suggested to this point or made as part of the motion that's on the floor. There would be no requirement to have an additional public hearing. So the public hearing has been resolved. The only question, I guess, in my mind would be, what is the timing for the next CRPC meeting?
The first meeting, it's the first Thursday in August, so our next meeting is their next meeting, so the 6th. And I was gonna say something else.
Do they meet earlier than we do? Or
No, they,
later?
actually, yeah. I know they met at 6 on the 2nd. I don't know if they changed the timing because of the holiday, but it was a 6 o'clock meeting. Was there another question?
For me?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm all finished, thanks.
Okay, thanks.
No, I think that's the only other question I had. I mean, I think if everybody is ready to make the motion, we've made the motion, but take the vote now, we can do that, unless somebody has, thought to move it out till after the next planning commission meeting.
Could I also note, I believe that the ad that we advertised the public hearing indicated that we may take action. And so that kind of leaves it open, going back to your question of not approving tonight.
Thoughts? Please.
I mean, I'm a process person, so if I were deciding, then my opinion would be that we would wait until since they tabled it, to me, that's meaningful if they tabled it. And so I would respect the process, but I'm also not going to go against the majority of council,
Right.
so.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get a sense for majority. Your thoughts?
May I say something?
Oh, please.
I was gonna say, did they table it because they hit the rocky spot and didn't want to prolong the meeting? Like, what was the reasoning for tabling it? Or if it was just these questions that they put in the letter, then we've already proven that we can answer that effectively. So I'm okay with moving forward. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying, it could have been from the standpoint of not to belabor the issue as the reason why they tabled it, and maybe wanted to come in with fresh eyes. But I think if it's from the standpoint of that, like just not wanting to continue in a rocky space, and then asking these questions as follow-ups, and I feel confident that we answered those effectively, then I think that we can take the vote. Yeah, that's just my perspective.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, and I pretty much agree, although I am a process person. I feel comfortable that Lindsay has, what Lindsay has said. And I guess the real reason is, I know if they point something out, we are nimble enough
Yes.
to revisit this thing and make adjustments. I know it means possibly another public hearing, but I have faith that we as a group will come together and make adjustments if necessary. So I'll compromise my process position to support tonight's vote.
And I would like to say I will go with the majority. I was just speaking.
Sure. Yeah, well, this is important that we have the discussion.
Yeah.
So, Rich?
Yeah, am I gonna say I'm a process guy?
Yeah.
If you haven't figured that out after a decade, I don't know if you're ever gonna. But, the big thing in there is they tabled it for certain reasons, although candidly, my read of that paragraph, that was in there. They just didn't find it in the ordinance and everything. So in reading through those, and again, going back to they didn't benefit from the umpteen-month education piece that we did. I'm very comfortable that we've already addressed all of those. And the other part that they're, as Adam indicated, that our block to be checked is that it's consistent, We've sometimes run into issues giving outside entities too much voice in College Township business. So we have to be careful about that as well. But, we always respect their process. We've never missed them. This is new territory for a table. My personal take is the table was the easiest action, but it might not have been necessarily the best action. So I'm in support of moving forward tonight.
I would prefer a 5-0 vote.
Yeah, I know.
I also think that regardless of the vote, there's a commitment, certainly from me, to revisit this thing. We've done it before.
Yeah.
If necessary.
All of our ordinances are perfect till they meet contact.
Yes. We have a long history of.
Yeah, we do.
Of not walking that walk.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're not perfect.
Yep.
We
Right.
missed this. Let's revisit it.
Yep.
So I'll support it tonight, the motion, with the understanding that I will also be the first person to revisit it if we get something out of them that.
Something substantial and
Yeah.
documented.
So would we prepare those comments then and send them off to them for their August meeting? Or I can attend too, that's fine. I'll just be a little late for this one.
If they, regardless of whether or not they may have been in the materials that they were presented with and that they possibly missed them, that would be my recommendation, that we put those answers in writing and we forward those to Pam so that they can be considered by CRPC at their next meeting.
All right, then I think the motion on the floor now, as it stands, is to move to approve ordinance 0-26-04 with the understanding that our comments this evening will be written and sent to the next regional planning commission meeting, and there's a consensus to take the vote tonight. All right, as long as I'm understanding that, then all those in favor of approving ordinance 0-26-04, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please same sign. Aye. All right, the motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, next item up is OB2, another ordinance approval. This is ordinance 0-26-05, Chapter 180, this is the amendments to the saldo for the master tree list. Lindsay, you have information for us on that?
Yes,
Okay.
brief. This is pretty straightforward. Not long ago, a group of arborists and other public works folks got together and prepared a master tree list for land developments and street trees. This is a list that's going to be used region-wide to have more consistency in the types of trees, bushes, shrubs. It covers a lot in the table. The Planning Commission reviewed the list and said, you know, the subject matter experts reviewed this, they put it together, we'd recommend it. CRPC, our Planning Commission representative there that evening, indicated that our Planning Commission said the experts did it, we didn't have much, it's a good idea to be consistent, and so they made the recommendation, supported it, as well as our Planning Commission. So this change would just be really a reference in our subdivision and land development ordinance referencing the new ordinance, the new tree list.
Okay, are there any questions for Lindsay on this? All right, then if there are no questions or discussion, I'd accept a motion to approve ordinance -0-26-05.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries unanimously. Okay, thank you very much, Lindsay.
Thank you.
All right, next up is OB3. That is our 2027-2031 Capital Improvement Plan, or Program Plan. And Mike, you have information for us.
Sure. So just as a refresher, on an annual basis, College Township develops its 5-year capital improvement program, or CIP, which is an important planning document that outlines proposed capital investments of roughly $5,000 or greater. As you know, about roughly 3 weeks ago, council met in work session to review and provide comments on the draft 2027 to 2031 CIP. As a result of that discussions, there was several, not many, but several alterations to the CIP. Actually have drafts of that for folks I haven't met up with yet to provide to you. But in that vein, I'm pleased to provide to you the final draft of the 2027 to 2031 CIP, which was included under the memorandum. The key highlight, as we talked about during the work session, is really 2027, the capital budget year, which shows at this point $15.7 million in capital investments in College Township. That's fairly unprecedented in terms of what we've done here in College Township, but it's important to underscore also the work that has gone into securing grant funding to offset those costs. So as I mentioned, $15.7 million. We have over $9 million in grants and private funding that offsets those capital improvements. And I wanted to highlight some of those just to kind of walk through here. The big one on that's been at the front of mind here as of late is the Shiloh Road Corridor Improvement Project. That's about a $5.7 million public-private partnership that will result in new turning lanes, traffic improvements, new signals, in the following intersections: Shiloh Road with Spring Valley Road in Benner Township, Shiloh with the Crew 814 site that's yet to be named, the street there, and Shiloh Road with Trout Road. That's where Mr. Maxwell was working on his development. As I mentioned, funding secured for this, we have a $2.7 million DCED Transportation Infrastructure Improvement Fund grant that has been awarded. We're in the process of working through the grant agreement. We have $200,000 in DCED Community and Economic Assistance Program grants, and just over $2 million in private funding from the 4 developers that are adjacent to Shiloh Road. And we also have pending a just over $900,000 PennDOT Multimodal Transportation Fund grant that we feel is a very compelling grant, or have our fingers crossed that we're going to have a successful grant award there. What's important to note, as I mentioned, $5.7 million is the current estimated cost of this project. We have over that secured in the grant and private funding at this point. What you didn't hear was College Township money in this project. So just wanted to emphasize, there is already a third of that capital budget year secured at this point. Another project, one that's been long on the come and is getting closer to delivery, is our Path to Campus project, which at this point is estimated at just over $2.8 million. That's that new shared use path from Puddintown Road to the existing path up on Penn State campus near Hastings Road and University Drive. As I mentioned, 2.8 million, roughly 2.9 million total for that project. We have 2.25 million secured in grants. Those come in the form of a $1.5 million PennDOT Transportation Alternatives Set-Aside Program, or TASF program grant, $500,000 Commonwealth Financing Authority Multimodal Transportation Fund grant, and $250,000 from the Commonwealth Financing Authority through their local share account, statewide account. That's the casino revenue funds at a statewide pool. The next big project I list here is the one that doesn't have grant funding associated with it, and that's this municipal building interior renovations, which right now our back of the envelope estimate for this project is about $3.3 million. We're still waiting and working through the process to get those final numbers. But it's important to note what we're going to be doing with this project. Some of the things that are highlighted here: replacement of our aged HVAC ceiling units. That's included backbone for future security upgrades, cameras, ID fob systems, making the building more secure. Replacement of our corner window units as well, and then just phased building renovations. You're going to see a much different look to this building over the next, say, call it 18 months as we start moving forward with this project. So again, right now we're estimating $3.3 million. Stay tuned on the actual cost for this project. And I'd be remiss if I didn't highlight our traffic signals program. We got about $1.3 million worth of traffic signals showing up in this CIP. And it's important to note that we have almost $900,000 in grants secured or pending for those. Just to highlight, a $203,000 PennDOT Greenlight Go Fund grant, a $500,000 and almost $4,000 PennDOT Advanced Red Light Enforcement grant secured. Pending, we have a $190,000 grant from the PennDOT Greenlight Go for those signals as well. So I always tip my cap to the work that Public Works, Amy's crew, as well as Frank Scott, our traffic signals individual, does for these projects. We've had a very successful program there, a good high batting average in terms of getting grant funds for those projects. That's really the highlight of this year. One of the changes that was made to the CIP was also we advanced the acquisition for the potential of a Bush Avenue extension into 2027. All of those, as Joe alluded to in his earlier presentation, we'll be talking about the financing to make all these projects work. These are the big projects that we reference. These are the heavy hitters. So for the CIP, council is required to adopt a resolution in order to formally adopt or accept the CIP as a planning document. Staff has provided draft resolution R2621 for your consideration. And the action requested is just that. Review and provide any additional feedback that you may have on the final draft CIP. And barring any substantive revisions to the final draft, staff's requesting a council move to adopt resolution R2621.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Mike, or any further comments about the CIP? Eric?
Yeah, you said those big capital projects are the highlight. I would offer that the staff's success in applying for and receiving grants is the highlight, at least equal highlight to the number, to the value of the projects. That can't be really overstated. And then my question is, if you could all humor me a little, since you did in the workshop with the land acquisition, Bush Avenue extension, given that land acquisition is a sensitive subject oftentimes, if we could just add a little bit to the narrative at the bottom of 19, explaining why that has become necessary. You know, the approval of the 50 home, you know, you guys can write it better than I can speak it, but that's really what's pushing this. I mean, it was already needed, and then this has just kind of pushed that need. It's raised it to another DEFCON level.
You said that's page 19, Eric?
Yeah, and I don't think it affects the motion. I think
Right.
there's just an understanding that you'll editorialize that a little.
Yeah, and I think
just
we
to-
can do something relatively short to
1 or 2
capture all
sentences.
that.
Something that calls out the development as part of that last sentence.
Yeah, you know, the
I see
impact,
that.
we're gonna double the
Yeah,
number of,
yeah.
that kind of stuff. We already have existing
Yeah.
problems or challenges on First Avenue, and we can't really afford to push that any further, you know, stuff like that.
Sure, yeah, we can easily expand on that.
Any other questions or comments for staff from any members? Okay.
Just
Go
Just
ahead.
a comment of potential, the resolution that's provided, addition of just 1 and 2 small words in the 3rd bullet. Whereas the projects listed in the 2027 capital budget year will be incorporated into the development of the 2027 municipal budget, as opposed to incorporated, that kind of says we're sticking them in there, hell or high water. So
That's true.
Say that again.
So as it reads right now,
Yeah.
projects listed in the 2027 capital budget year will be incorporated into the 2027 municipal budget for
Got it.
further review and discussion. I'm asking that we will be incorporated into the development of the 2027 municipal budget.
Sure.
We reserve the right to change our mind before the budget.
Sure.
Correct.
All right, then, any other questions or comments? Okay. Then the action item is to adopt, I'll need a motion to adopt Resolution R-26-21 with changes in both the resolution language as requested and changes to the CIP page 19 as requested. Would anyone like to make that motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Although, okay. All those in favor of adopting Resolution R-26-21 as noted, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Great. Thank you. Thank you for the thoughtful comments, and thank you for, as Eric said, for highlighting what staff has done to make all this possible.
I was remiss, the one thing I did want to note as part of that too is, yes, staff's done a nice job with this. We've also had a lot of support, primarily from Representative Takak. I would also like to highlight Representative Benninghoff, particularly on the Shiloh Road project. And we have had support from Delta Development, so I think it's important to highlight the roles that they've played. They've been important partners in the success that we've had to this point.
Thank you for that. Okay, next up, we have OB4. This is a form-based code review, and Carrie, I think you have a memo, some information for us on the streetscapes.
Actually, it's Lindsay.
Is it Lindsay? Okay.
Thank you. We have a few things for you tonight. The first one is a code review schedule. So thank you for responding to the doodle or the rally tool, poll. Now we have a schedule of work sessions. We've included those in your packet and also what we're going to provide to you for each of those discussions. The goal is to give you the materials for the work session at the council meeting prior to the work session. So tonight, after the meeting, you'll be sent the materials for the July 30th work session. It'll be in a Dropbox, and then we'll figure out with advertising and everything how to get that out to the public when we do advertise and hold that meeting. So the schedule's here for you. We're gonna, in order to have productive and, meetings with tangible results, we'll try our best to stick with it and move forward through this process. Does council have any questions or concerns, input on the schedule?
I think it looks really good. Very organized,
I love
super
it.
helpful. Thank you.
Thanks. It's exciting, and we'll get there.
Are the topics that were dedicated to the work session, are they anticipated to be longer, more in-depth discussions?
Sort of. We wanted to keep those for work sessions rather than council
So
meetings.
there was some method to the selection, okay.
Yeah, we doubled up on a few things, like next, on the 30th, we'll be talking about uses and administration, because we didn't think uses would fill it it might, but, we have a few things lined up to get through.
Okay, so we're all good with the schedule?
Great. Well then, moving on, and I wanted to note that we're going to review these thoroughfare assemblies, which we're calling streetscapes.
Okay.
Council at a joint meeting back in 2025 was presented these streetscapes. We got a pretty good consensus of, these look good, the planning commission looked through them, so the council felt good about them. But we felt, since we're kind of starting fresh, the streetscapes are a good place to start, so we just want to give you an overview of what these streetscapes will be. We'll provide developers a menu of different options for different new streets as they build developments throughout College Township. So one thing we did, we go to the next one. I'm clicking my mouse like I have it. Okay, so this is the thoroughfares and right-of-way section of the new hybrid form-based code. This is setting forth regulations for right-of-way designs. Everything included in the right-of-way, the streetscape elements include the travel lanes, the sidewalks, the bike facilities, landscaping, street trees, and other public realm elements. This code section also considers the manual on uniform traffic control devices, or the MUTCD, and also our chapter 177, which are streets and sidewalks. So tonight, as I noted, council has seen these, but we just want to review them with you real quick. And if you have any comments, we'll make the changes and come back. The next slide just gives you an overview of the detail. So the image you see shows the streetscape elements itself, and the adjacent table there down at the bottom shows you the requirements for each element. So again, we talk about road type, movement, design speed, travel lanes, parking lanes, medians, bicycle facilities, class, sidewalks, plantings and furnishings, and curbs. And all of those items I just noted they're in more detail in 200-63, which everyone has in their code here. So if you want to look back to reference what these tables are saying, you can look back to that code, and if any more questions come up, I'd be happy to talk to you. So I'm just going to run through these. We have 5 neighborhood streets. Excuse me. So neighborhood street number 1 has a 50-foot right-of-way. These different streets are determined by zoning district. So some neighborhood streets are only going to be permitted in the neighborhood mixed-use zoning district, where avenues, boulevards, they would be permitted in the mixed core district, which is a little bit more intensive, more dense. So we kind of have those set up that way. The tables show you the sidewalk widths, the planning and furnishings, and then they add up to that total right-of-way amount. So neighborhood street 1 was 50 foot right of way. Neighborhood street 2 is 60. Some of these have parking lanes on one side, some have parking on both sides. In some cases, there's a sidewalk on one side, a bike path on the other side of all of these neighborhood streets. Neighborhood street 4, is unique. It's a 60-foot right-of-way width, but it has a 10-foot minimum shared use path on one side and then a sidewalk on the other side. The Planning Commission had the opportunity to look through these, and that's when we had the tape on the floor and, the furniture, just trying to kind of feel a little bit more how these would feel in real life. But Neighborhood Street 5 was proposed without any on-street parking. So although the Planning Commission made this recommendation, this is kind of one where you know, we might leave it in there, but then again, if everyone picks the neighborhood street with no parking, then it's just harder with no parking because you don't protect the pedestrians on, you know, and the street feels safer, I think, when there's on-street parking. Also, it just tells you if it's one-way proposed or two-way proposed. All right, the next one, we get into our commercial streets. These right-of-way widths get a little bit wider at 70 feet, but they include plantings and furnishings, you know, what type of planting you have to have, if it's continuous or if it's allowing for curb cuts and things like that in the street. Commercial street number 2 is pretty big. It has the bike paths on both sides, parking, and 2 travel lanes. Then we get into avenues. Avenue 1 is a 80-foot right-of-way with 2 12-foot travel lanes, parking lanes, bicycle facilities. And then we have a second avenue, which has a median, which introduces the median, and it shows you the width that median has to be. And although if we considered that if this street were proposed and there was an emergency, that the lanes are wide enough on both sides for two-way traffic, if that was ever necessary. And then finally, we have our boulevard. Oh, no, we have Avenue 3. We have another avenue, kind of shows you the, the protected bike lane, thank you. That's what's different around 3. And then the boulevard option, you know, we thought about maybe not putting this in, but why not? So this is also an option. It's very big. It's 160-foot right-of-way with sidewalks, plantings, all of the things. There are 6 total travel lanes and parking. There's medians, and the bicycle lane actually is a shared lane. So these are the menu of options that developers will have available to them when they come in with the new code. And we'll review their plans and determine then, council will be involved in how these develop in the future. So that's where we are with streetscapes. We'll be diving into uses and to administrative processes at our upcoming joint meeting. And then we'll follow the schedule from there. So with that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
So before we get started, it says action, but our action tonight is just to give feedback. And before we get started, one of the questions I had was, these are streetscapes that the PC selected from a menu of streetscapes that was larger than what we're looking at tonight. Is that correct?
Yeah, we added the neighborhood 5 without the parking, and we're pretty consistent with what what DPZ presented to us in the first place. But when we did all the measuring, we talked about sidewalk width. If it needs to be 5, it should be 6. Right. What's 8 feet? Excuse me, and so forth.
All right. So thank you.
Okay.
So with that, we can go around. Rich, do you have any comments, direction, any thoughts on?
No, ongoing, a lot of work, a lot of stuff to churn through. Again, we hope it's perfect as it comes out, but we'll adjust as we need to as it comes out.
I'm good.
No, I love the pictures.
Yeah.
Can we just make that happen?
That's how they'll look in the ordinance. It'll be very visual.
I like that the sidewalks widen as the intensity of the street, builds, which makes sense. But some places the sidewalk's 5 feet and the planting and furnishings are 8, and vice versa. Is the intent that those be absolutely shown, distinguished during the development?
Yes, absolutely.
So we're not just going to have 14 feet total and in there somewhere is 5 feet of sidewalk.
What I expect is to see something like this as they present us what their plan is. So we would see a streetscape similar to this on the plan. So we can say, oh, there's your 8-foot planting strip.
So it will be it will be determined at the land development plan that this will be dedicated sidewalk, this will be dedicated.
Yeah, it's just, you know, you put in a new street now, this is just putting, these are your options for your new streets.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Gretchen?
No, I think they make the dream start to
Yeah.
look like it can be reality one day, which is very cool. I think the ones with the bike lanes are the best. So so this is like a menu, you said, for developers, so, you know, that's great. I was just counting how many of them have bike lanes, because not all of them do, but
Yeah,
anyway.
and some of them, you know, because of the speed on the road, it allows for a shared road bike path. So, you know, allows the
Yeah.
bikes to use the road rather than
Right,
having a path,
right.
so.
No, it looks, yeah. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Rich?
Just an alibi, I'm gonna renew my request that we consider renderings as part of our ordinance stuff.
Yeah.
It's gonna become more and more important as we go
Well,
through this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, this almost, the adoption of a hybrid form-based code is almost going to demand
Yeah.
that there be some type of rendering. It may not need to be at this particular level or detail, but they're going to have some of that in order to properly, I think, convey what they choose to do.
Yeah, I think we get into that a little bit later with administration.
I'm extending it beyond the form-based code area.
Make it universal.
Yes.
Understood?
And if it could be this quality,
Yeah.
I would say, let it be
I would
this
offer
quality.
that it needs to be that
Yeah.
level of detail. That-
Fair enough.
Because this is very visual.
It's easier to read than a flat,
Yes,
for us.
definitely.
What, and the technology has changed so
Yes.
much. I mean, it used to be a huge burden
Yes,
to
not
put
that
on, to generate renderings. Now it's a push of a button.
Yeah.
And so we kind of saw that with our building renovation stuff. They were able to generate those real quick.
Okay. So,
Adam has some.
Well, I was going to, if you had comments to make, Madam Chair, I'm happy to wait.
thank you, Mr. Manager. Just one, timing is so much, but I love that we just amended the ordinance with the master tree plan. I think that's going to make, you know, coming back to the dream and the vision, you know, looking at the boulevard and the medians and the plantings, that'll really help with a lot of those choices. Did you have a specific question on neighborhood street number 5? This is the one where there was a discrepancy between staff recommendations and PC on the parking versus the non-parking.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a picture, a rendering that shows the street with the 2 travel lanes and then parking, it looks like on one side, maybe there's potential for parking on the other side, but in the actual chart, it's just the 2 lanes. And
Yeah.
I will just go on record as saying I favor the 2 lanes without the parking because I live in a neighborhood that has no parking. And we have the sidewalk and we have, you know, the speed is slow enough, typically slow enough, that, you know, I think that's another choice. You know, how developers make these choices. You know, I obviously favor lots of bike lanes and discrete bike lanes. You know, the shared biking makes me a little nervous just because not everybody follows the speed limit. But you know, I think there's so many other things. I think the rights of way will slow people down. It'll be interesting to look at. So anyway, back to this. Did you have a specific guidance you wanted from us on that one streetscape?
I just wanted to note that there was not a conflict, but, you know, even talking early on with our consultants, it was, you know, parking is usually better, at least on one side to
This
slow.
was not a DPZ recommendation.
No, it's a planning commission
Okay.
recommendation.
So no parking is the planning commission, and the recommendation from staff would be parking on both sides or parking on one side?
At
Do we
least one
need to-
side, I would say.
Okay.
Just, yeah, at least one
All
side.
right, I would favor that.
But the developer will have choices,
They will have choices
but that'll be one of the choices in the neighborhood.
if that's
They go
what
with
council
neighborhood
likes to see. Yeah, we'll allow that.
One of the things, and we're gonna run into this a lot, is that there are other elements of the code that are going to clearly influence other elements of the code. So we're talking about the streetscapes tonight, but eventually we're gonna talk about parking. And that's one thing that may necessitate our revisiting streetscapes at some point. Because once we understand and agree or generally have a consensus about how parking is going to work in this district, in this area, it may in fact inform much better your opinions of some of these kinds of things. So that was basically what I wanted to be sure to mention to council tonight.
Yeah, you're right, because the parking regulations allow for off-site parking to count towards your parking standard or your parking requirements, and that could be on-street. So if you're, you're required so many spaces and you want to offer those on-street, then you might want to change your streetscape around to accommodate that. Good point, Adam.
Okay.
Interesting.
I had one more thing.
Yes, please.
So
Sorry.
are any of these more or less adaptable for the future? Because it seems like a lot of times, this is all going to be brand new, right? And we may have, envision certain things but, it's always sometimes different, when reality sets in and people start to actually live and work and play in these spaces. So, I'm just familiar with buildings, like for the school district, we would try to always think about how can we make this so that we could adapt it, we could extend it, we could, depending on population shift, blah, blah. So I'm just wondering, does it work the same with streets? Like, are there any that are more, like if you put a median in the middle, does that make it less adaptable, or you'd have to get rid of the median if you need to make, and developers take that into account because of the fact that this is brand new?
Well, I think the wider right-of-ways would be just more adaptable. You have the 80-foot right-of-way for the one avenue, so you're showing two lanes of traffic, two bikes that go past, and then there's parking. Maybe, that gets changed around. With that right-of-way, you could maybe tweak it. Whereas the 40-foot right-of-way, that's not going to be very adaptable. It is what it is.
No, that's super helpful. That's exactly what I was wondering.
Especially because we're talking about bringing the buildings closer to the road. So if you do that, your road is pretty much going to be set at the width, that you have it at there. So if you do the streetscape with no parking on it at all, you're pigeonholing that particular road to not be able to be adapted.
There's also one other consideration here, is developers in theory will be building the roads, but they'll be dedicated and turned over to the township.
Right.
So that future proofing ultimately ends up being the responsibility of the township. I mean, it's just something to remember and consider.
Keep in mind,
and keep in mind.
Do you have from us what you need?
I do. Thank you so much. I look forward to July 30th.
Well, thank you all, and also thank you, Planning Commission, for all the work that they did to make it possible for us to move through this like this tonight. I know it was a lot of work. I appreciated that you put the photo in the memo, Lindsay,
to show,
with the
yes.
little cafe tables and kind of like the rendering of what the process was. Okay, well, with that, then, we get to new business. Ben Estelle from COG is here. Ben, thank you for being so patient this evening. And did you want to address your remarks before or after Ben?
Well, not necessarily. I don't know that I need to. I thought that the memo was pretty
Yeah.
self-explanatory. Essentially, as Ben had, as COG had presented the SIGC to the municipalities, along with that came both agency rankings in terms of priority as well as overall COG rankings in priority. And essentially, I formulated my comments based off of those overall COG priorities, not necessarily the agency priorities. And essentially, the memo is intended to be a point of departure for council's conversation with Ben here. So if there's any additional detail or explanation anyone needs about the memo, I'm happy to do that. But it's fairly straightforward.
Thanks for being here and waiting for us, Ben.
Sorry? No, look, you've got another 2 hours before you come close to my latest night in the last 2 weeks.
Wow. Don't go.
Challenge accepted.
All right. Well, you know what? We're going to take a break right now, and we'll be back.
Have you
in
met
about
Mike
an
Bloom?
hour. We're going for
I just have a couple brief comments. I'm primarily here to answer questions, but before we get to the document itself, I just want to emphasize what it is and what it isn't. This is not the budget. It's the first step of the budget process. Think of it as an opportunity, our opportunity to show you where we believe the organization is headed, what challenges we're seeing, and what investments each agency believes may be needed over the next several years. We deliberately bring this to you months before the budget so that you have time to ask questions, offer suggestions, and help shape our priorities before items are finalized. As I read this year's SIGSI, 3 themes kept appearing across nearly every agency. First, we're placing a much greater emphasis on taking care of the assets you've already invested in. Across COG, we're trying to be more disciplined about life cycle planning, preventative maintenance, fleet management, and facility upkeep. Deferred maintenance almost always becomes more expensive later. Number 2, our people remain our greatest asset. Every service we provide depends on attracting and retaining talented employees. That means not only competitive compensation, but also investing in technology and systems that allow staff to spend more time serving the public and less time pushing paper. We're trying to become more data-driven. You'll notice that agencies are including more performance measures, trend analysis, benchmarking, and long-term planning than in previous years. We believe better information leads to better decisions. Finally, I want to stress that this is as much your document as it is ours. If something doesn't make sense, if you think we're missing an issue, or if you believe we've placed emphasis in the wrong area, now is exactly the time to tell us. We'd much rather have those conversations today than during the budget adoption. Tonight isn't about defending every recommendation, it's about listening as much as it is presenting. And that was it for me.
All right, thank you. Eric, do you have some questions, comments for Ben?
Comment? 2 comments and a question. You've heard this before. I appreciate the shift in the process of both the budget development and what we're doing here. This is a refreshing change. I think it's productive. I really like the emphasis on asset maintenance. I worked a long time in an asset-intense organization, and I couldn't agree with you more. And of course, I want to mention data-driven because it circles back to our discussion in the Parks and Library Committee deliberations, in that some of the recommendations that will come out of the committee, I can already tell you, are a lot of it's low-hanging fruit, and some of it is about integrating more data into the recommendations to help smooth the process, the deliberation process and the discussion process, whether it's at a COG committee level or an authority board meeting or whatever. And then the last thing is just a question. I support what the manager said in his opening paragraph of what's in our, on our packet. But I'm curious, this is probably your third or fourth municipal meeting on this?
Or sixth.
What's that?
I
Sixth.
think we're last.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
comments are due
Comments are
tomorrow.
due tomorrow.
We're the last.
So is there anything, you know, you said, you know, this is the time to ask about priorities or question priorities or ask you to reconsider. Is there anything that's come up in those 6 meetings that would affect this right here that we should know about before we even get into discussion?
There were a couple items that have come up pretty much across the board. The first would be the drone request from emergency management. Just about everybody also should notice that that was the lowest priority on the COG-wide ranking in there. Ferguson Township has offered to at least discuss transitioning one of their tethered drones to emergency management. And they know that this is not a high priority for me, and something that they have to put some more work into. Even if we are going to do the transition of 1 unit from Ferguson Township, there still has to be discussions on privacy usage policies around the use of a drone by any COG agency. So that would be the first one that I would lay out. Bike counters have not been well received across the board. There's support from some of the communities for those, because the data that we can get from those bike counters could help us with some grant applications on the transportation side. However, most have noted that this is primarily keeping that silver bike-friendly designation, and that isn't as important to everybody, to just keep a designation rather than actually making a stronger impact. It would help us with grant work, but we certainly are not going to push hard on something that people do not believe will help the region. There's also been a good bit of discussion in a couple ways around the hot water heaters for Park Forest Pool. There have been suggestions about different types of heaters that we should consider using for better efficiency. They are gas. They are gas because we have a lot of showers out there and we have a lot of people showering at one time. If you used a heat pump system, heat pump systems typically generate a volume of water first, and then once that has dropped down, it generates it again. That does not work with the operation of a swimming pool facility's shower units. Others have wanted us to look at the instantaneous water heaters. We have those at Welsh, and it requires 1 unit for every 2 showers there in order to keep up with the volume we have, and we've had a lot of trouble with those units as well. There are larger commercial units now, but the simplest answer would be to go with what we have. And I know with Patton, my request to them was to just, in their comments, if they were willing to just say, we will reevaluate at the end of the pool season. It's possible that these 2 heaters will hold on for 1 more year. But we typically don't have as good of an idea of what we will start next season with until we get to the end of this pool season to see how everything holds up. Those have been the most consistently discussed items across the municipalities right there.
Okay, then 2 quick follow-ups on that. Growing up in a household of 10, I can attest to we lived in Park Forest. Fortunately, we had gas-fired water heaters. Otherwise, well, you know what would have happened. A lot of cold showers. And then on the bike thing, I don't think I understood that. I think the recognition was the counters would give us a competitive advantage in grants, but there still wasn't support for that?
There is tepid support for that item. It's it's one that has been questioned pretty much across the board. And I've been cleared that a lot of the questions have been around the methodology, and these units aren't perfect. And Anne herself will tell you directly, there are no perfect solutions to getting bike data. We have looked at Strava, and many other communities have looked at Strava. You get into data privacy issues when you start to do that. She has been able to borrow them for a week during certain years from the LTAP program, but that does not get us the volume of data that we need to do grant applications. So I'm simply sharing the comments that I've heard. So I know that there have been several municipalities who have said that they support that item, but they also have a lot of questions around it.
As imperfect as the data is, it's still acceptable for grant applications?
Yes. No matter which system we go with, there will be a flaw in that system. However, it's the only way that we can get data that the grants are requesting.
That's all I had.
Gretchen?
My only comment is that after having done over a decade of swim team with my kids, hot water is very important because those swim meets go until after 10 p.m. and some of those in June are frigid.
Nothing heats a water heater faster than gas. But those instantaneous ones, if you want to buy 100 of them.
And replace them every couple of years.
Yeah.
Because of State College water.
Eric, just mine, I wanted to know what was the consensus across the townships and municipalities, so he took mine.
Okay. Rich?
I really appreciate the award-winning COG Executive Director's opening comments in framing this for us. And it has been an evolving process that just makes it a little bit easier every year, it feels. I think COG staff's work empowered our manager to more effectively do his evaluations, and I agree completely. I think the biggest addition has been the COG-wide project rankings. That's definitely in the sustain category. That helps so much on it. So I really don't have anything other than to add that we're getting at this so early that the first budget review session is on September 8th, which is 54 days from today.
Anything else? So the only comments I have are, I came into the work a couple of years before you came, and the difference in understanding how to move through this process with the SIG-C and what we were dealing with before with different binders and trying to figure it out. It's made it much easier for me to understand how to do this. And Adam, even though it took me a little while to wrap my head around your spreadsheet, I finally got it.
I wish it would have printed a little bit differently.
And the only other comment I have comes out of my work in public safety, and that the priorities are to add staff, the professional staff that we need to support the volunteers in the fire protection program. And then also, I think this is the 5th fire life safety inspector position that will be funding. Is it the 5th?
So this is for the last of the captain positions.
No, but, and then I'm sort of combining my whole public safety. There's also the fire and life safety. So that's separate, that comes under code.
Yes, but this is not one of the hybrid positions. This is the original fire and life safety inspectors, not fire and life safety /
Okay, all right, so I misunderstood that, so.
Yeah. This is kind of due because of the growth of the region.
Yeah,
the number of
exactly, that was the
units.
point I was gonna make, is
yeah.
that code is trying to expand the personnel to support the growth and the development in the area. That's exactly right. And they're being very proactive and very sensible about combining from different agencies, code agency and from the fire protection program for those other positions. So I was glad to see that those were those priorities. So, and I understand that from one of the members of public safety that Ferguson had made the offer to share a tethered drone, and I learned that that means that you don't have to have a license to operate that drone. So that is important, that is a tethered drone, but the privacy concerns. On the other hand, the piece that I thought of was, it's like the robot that was approved for code to look into crawl spaces. You know, my understanding is that the drones allow for the surveillance that won't put people at risk to do the surveillance during the disasters.
That's correct.
So if there's some way to find some middle of the ground solution there in terms of privacy, again, prioritizing, the safety of the staff.
And it's a matter of finding the good way to incorporate new technologies as they come out, but also ensure people's trust in that process.
Sure.
I fly a drone myself,
I know
and
you
I'm
do.
well aware of some of the stigmas around it. People don't like the idea of not knowing that they're being recorded.
Right.
You know, I have a limit of 400 feet that I can fly my drone out. And you would not know that that drone is there recording you on your walk. I don't fly in the neighborhood, but it really makes a difference thinking about it from other people's perspective. Even with a public safety objective, we can't just focus that camera onto one home. The lens is too wide for that. So we at least need to consider the policies that would be required to go along with it.
It's an aerial ring camera, isn't it?
It is.
Well, thank you for those considerations. Is there anything we need to do?
Just a little bit of direction. I'm making the assumption that the recommendations that were provided in the memo are the ones that council supports. The one thing that I want to, if it happened to be missed, the one thing that I do want to identify here for council is there was one much lower ranking project that I had recommended to be funded as through the SIGC as presented. And that had to do with paving for the, help me out here, yeah, the splash pads.
Yeah.
That was something that because we're talking about replacing splash pad equipment, it kind of seems to make sense if there is a need to do some paving, we likely ought to try to do that before we put in the new equipment. And so even though that particular expenditure was a much lower rank, I identified it as a precursor project and did in fact incorporate that as something that I recommended that council support. So I just wanted to make that clarification. If everyone is comfortable with the listing, I can complete the rest of the paperwork and get that to Ben. Do we need to actually
No, we
take
just,
a vote on anything?
we just need consensus comments,
Yeah.
so, so I think from your memorandum, I think we should make a comment about the COG-wide project rankings, the value to us and continuing that, just hit that home.
Well, and maybe Susan's comment about trying to reach some middle ground with the,
Drone.
yeah.
Is there, there's not really a policy for that yet, is there?
No,
Right.
we don't operate anything like, I mean,
Right.
the closest we've looked at are the autonomous mowers for parks. They don't have cameras on them, they're not hovering over people's homes, they're just cutting grass in the parks, so.
But if you'll be
But if-
discussing with Ferguson the acquisition of their tethered drone,
Yes.
having that policy in place before the drone is
Yes,
operationalized.
in both Ferguson and the borough have policies on these, so
Okay.
we would be reviewing theirs to see
Great.
how we can incorporate their police policies into fire and emergency management.
Thank you.
Our priorities consistent? I mean, how does this then dovetail with the 6 previous visits? I mean, we're right in line with,
I mean, each community is different. You all have different priorities on things. Individual elected officials have different priorities. The reason we say consensus comments is because staff are going to provide responses to anything that requires a response. If you simply say support, say thank you very much. But if you have actual questions or issues with anything, then you're going to get a thought-out response to it. And I've done the numbers. I think it's something like 960 responses would be necessary if we took comments from every elected official on each item. We have 2 weeks to turn this around.
even if you had a year, that's not the way it should work.
No, so, you know, as I said, this isn't the budget, we're just looking for, do you have a consensus feeling positively or negatively on anything that you want us to look at before we actually dig into the budget? So, we've certainly heard very positive things and very negative things on almost everything in here so far from individuals. But in general, I highlighted the consensus items.
Well, would there be support, then a consensus support for, even though it didn't make the cut, I'm not opposed to spending the money on the bike ped counters, but this is coming from, it's coming on the heels of our unprecedented grant success we've had here. If it's true that, you know, that does give you a leg up and it gives you, you know, a notable competitive advantage in seeking funding, you know, for bike paths or multi-purpose paths. I don't know. I don't know if that's.
You're our transportation representative, you know this, and Gretchen's our bike.
Well, yeah, because I wonder if you needed to apply for the grant, and the only way to get the data is through the count, then you can't even apply for the grant without it. So it's actually bigger than it looks.
Yeah, I mean, it's not an insignificant chunk.
No, it's not, is it, do we have one now, or this would be a new piece of equipment to acquire?
This would cover us for 5 years.
Okay.
But I would just offer the comment, it didn't make our cut here, but I'm certainly not opposed at all that if the rest of the municipalities say that is a higher priority than maybe something on here, I would certainly entertain that.
But I think this discussion helps me into the review session. So
Okay.
It comes up, if that is a.
If there's consensus amongst College Township
That's what I'm
Council, we
asking.
can simply add this to the items that we support. We know, for example, based on the numbers that are part of the SIGC, that those 6 mobile bike ped counters are going to cost College Township $5,412 in the 2027 budget. And if there's consensus to do that, that's your prerogative, we'll add that. Happy to do so.
Your thought?
I'm not averse to it. I
Tracy?
mean, we're in a good position to do it.
I agree.
I agree too.
Then we'll,
I mean, I think it reflects the values we've been talking about
Yeah,
in
sure.
our meetings, and I think it also
Right.
aligns well with form-based code and what we're trying to do in the Dale
Right.
Summit area.
Right.
So I think as a township, we support that.
Yes.
okay, perfect.
No, actually, I don't think that, I know that.
Excellent. Any others?
Just one alibi. I think the finance committee and staff can work together to hone criteria of what needs to be in the SIGC. I mean, there's a couple things in here that, it's the rolling tables again. Don't ask us.
Well, I hope by next,
Yeah,
it'll take at least 1 to 2 more years before I have enough of a handle on all of COG's facilities, equipment, and vehicles that I can propose a system of funding like we have for fire emergency management right now, which is my ultimate goal, which is we say, if everybody will promise to put in this much money with these escalators in there on an annual basis, we'll keep up with everything that we need to keep up with.
just to clarify, I'm more looking at there's a $3,800 line item on here. That shouldn't be coming to the municipalities, in my opinion. That's kind of where I'm coming at it from. But what you're proposing is outstanding. But it's gonna take us some time to get there.
It's gonna take a couple years.
I see.
One more question for Ben, and I think that you had indicated this to me privately. The library came in late with?
So with the kiosk item, that item was a last minute submission because we had just learned about it. However, we have since learned that it is the cheapest option that we'll move forward with. That solves the problem for us. So I think that comes like $5,800, I believe, for that item. And the foundation most likely is going to be covering that cost. When it comes to the vehicle for SCLO, they are speaking with one of their funding sponsors, which is a dealership, to see if they will shift their sponsorship for the year to a vehicle. And the foundation, again, will be taking a look at that. It would be branded for the foundation to help with future fundraising, but that's a project that they are interested in. I think that would just leave the pit renovation for municipal fundraising.
Right, which I did not recommend, for the record.
Any further?
So, yeah, just real quick, just so it's understood. Basically, I reviewed the top 20 overall COG recommendations, okay? 6 of those recommendations were essentially either already budgeted money in the capital program, or were enterprise-oriented expenditures, enterprise fund-oriented expenditures. So, for example, the code items, and one of them was simply a statement of support for the Millbrook Marsh fundraising, right? So there were 6 of those types of things. So technically what I ranked were, and offered up, were the 15 plus those 6, plus the precursor project, essentially. So there are a total of 22 out of the 29 projects. There's a mistake on the fine print on my chart.
6 of the 21.
Yeah, instead of 21, it's 22 because of the precursor.
Well, now 23 because of us agreeing for.
And now 23 because of the bike counters. So I did not rank the exhaust pit for the library. I just wanted to be clear.
I try to tread carefully here because I'm not trying to push items, but I do believe, I think Adam's calculations bear it out, that the total for all requests would be less than what was put into this year's budget. We were very careful in our planning as a staff to try to minimize what our request would be, because we saw what inflation was going to do to everybody, what it'll do to us. Came in lower than what we expected, but in real world, we haven't seen things come down quite as much, so those expenses are still high, and we were very cognizant of that. But I believe that if you approved every single item in here, you still are not hitting the same amount of money that you put in this year for 60 items. I'm not trying to say go support everything, just, you're in good
I'm
shape.
comfortable with the manager's recommendations with the addition of the bike counters. And then just anything around the drone, any kind of policy that's developed at the same time while you're working with Ferguson or the borough, if that's where you're going. Good?
Yeah.
Good. Consensus?
Yes.
All right, got it, thank you.
Thank you, Adam,
Thank
thank
you
you.
all.
Ben, thank you again for waiting patiently for us tonight. We appreciate you.
He said he had nothing else to do tonight anyway.
We got a couple hours for him yet.
Look, I normally go for a nice walk with my wife and our dog in the evenings, and nobody's out walking right now.
Right, definitely not.
So,
That's true.
that kind of shot us there.
Thank
Thank you all.
Just to the point, the June CPI did come out, and it came out at 3.5. It was projected to be 3.8, so it came in a little bit lower than originally projected. So that, I mean, earlier in the year, we were worried about 5.
Right.
So 3.5 is,
Better than 5.
A trade-up, great trade-off.
but I think, great point, we haven't seen prices. It's a number, it's the number we're using, but in the real world, you know.
Anything could
Still high.
change.
Right.
Well, it's still high.
Well, the other rationale too, and I mentioned it in the memo, is these are the capitals. You know, these are the capital,
not
this
the
is the
operations.
capital program, it's not operations yet.
Right.
And who knows, right? I mean, no, we don't know that yet. So, and it's also consistent with what we identified for support last year, essentially, as far as numbers are concerned.
Well, since you brought it up, I take issue with us, like Ben said, comparing it to what we paid last year. You know, we should be rolling up our sleeves and looking at these as, do they benefit our residents and do they benefit the region?
Yeah.
And then look at the cost.
Yeah.
Because if you just fill up the bucket of what we paid for last year, that's a bit of a cop-out.
Well, that's, I mean, my rankings or my support were predicated entirely on the COG executive director's rankings.
Yeah. And I think also, though,
About what was needed.
we then look at them and say, are these of the highest value to the township and to the region for the money invested? I think that's a real challenge. That's what we're supposed to be
Right,
doing.
I agree with that, but I also, I think the manager looked at philosophically, we agree with all this stuff.
Right.
But what can we afford? And it appeared to me in your memo that you struck a chord of this is what natural growth out of our revenue, out of our tax base, we could support and everything. So yeah, I appreciate that element of it, but absolutely, we should be looking at them. It's not Penn State going to O.W. House in June before the budget's used up. I gotta use it or lose it.
Right, I didn't want to say that. Yeah, I didn't want.
I said it. O.W. House doesn't exist anymore, so it's good.
That's true.
Good. Okay, next item up is staff informatics. Any questions there? Anything anybody would like to discuss? Okay. Then we have council staff other matters. This is informational only. Anything else?
Just a reminder that at the next COG General Forum meeting is going to be the vote on the ARLDRI, Development of Regional Impact. And I had sent around a process or a procedural memo that we received, email that we received from Pam Adams about how that was going to work. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but I just wanted to be sure that if council had any questions or there was a need for a discussion, this would probably be the best time, since we will not meet before that next COG meeting, to have that conversation.
Anyone with questions?
It's probably fair to assume you'll get a general feel at exec as to where that unit vote
May go.
may go.
Yep. Yeah, we'll figure it out when we talk to the different chairs. Oh, we have the baseball game before our next meeting.
Oh, yeah, July 24th, Friday.
And it's drone night.
And it's drone.
Drones?
Not tethered drones,
Oh.
I'm fairly sure. But yes, if you've not responded to Katie's email about tickets, please do so. We have a bulk of 60 tickets. I believe they're all in the home plate, behind home plate area. College Township night, it also corresponds to Comic-Con night, Star Wars night, and of course, it's the drone show.
It's the drone show.
All brought to you by
College
College
Township. Yes. And there's just one last item I wanted to address. I wanted to just say on OB1, I did not, at the end of that vote, thank staff for all the work that they did, and also council, because it was a long process. And I just wanted to make sure that I acknowledged that you got us here. And that really reflects an awful lot of good work, so thank you for that. With that, I would take one more motion.
To adjourn.
So moved.
Do you know, is the drone show gonna be